Hello there. All right. This is your bonus training from day one. Like I said, if you join live today, there was so much more that I wanted to cover that we just didn't have time to today. So I wanted to find a way to still bring this to you. And so as I record this, there's potentially some background noise. The kiddos just got back from going on a walk with Jason. So if you hear my kids, if you hear my husband, if you hear anything in the background, that's just life. It is what it is. We get stuff done when we can and when we need to, right? As wives and moms and partners and all of that. So, with that being said, um, I want to take a deeper dive into the feminine with you tonight slash today, whenever you're watching this. And then I also want to take you through a visualization. And we're going to my plan is to do another one tomorrow when you join live, but I want to just really help connect you with the energy of what you want being manifested. And we're going to see how long I can do this sitting down. If you were there live today, I shared that I got a cold of some sort over the weekend and stuffiness is setting in. I thought sitting down would work. We'll see. We'll find out. But let's pick up where we left off with feminine. And something I want to say about the feminine is it is a strategic tool to help you elevate. So I remember, and again, we talked about this today, so much of my upbringing background, and I think for many of you too, you shared it's around like, if you want to achieve a big goal, it has to feel hard. It should feel heavy. If it doesn't feel challenging or like you're really, really grinding, then you're not working hard enough. You're not deserving of success, right? There's a lot of different stories that we tell ourselves about this. And I remember once having someone tell me, if you want to double your income, you need to double your self care. And when I heard that, and I don't know about you, but when I hear these truths, there can be a part of our mind, our ego mind, that's like, that doesn't make sense. I can't quantify that. That's not what I was taught growing up. But there's also a part of me and of you that hears these truths and there's just a knowing, right? So and I get this now, like I embody it, I understand it, I live it. And there's always new levels that we're reaching too, right? So there's always new levels I'm going for, always new levels you're going for. Um, but if you heard that for the first time and maybe you don't relate to that or you've never heard that before, I bet there's still a part of you that's like, "Ooh, well, what if it could be true?" Right? What if it could be true? And that is this example of if you want to double your income, double your self care. This is a perfect example of leading into the feminine. It's so funny. I was listening to an interview today with, you can hear some background noise. One second. I'm going to pause. I'm going to come back. Okay. We should be good. So I was listening to an interview just today, even after our day one training with someone who I got to meet at a mastermind a couple years ago, Preston Smiles. And he was talking about, so his journey was, surf instructor making 30 grand a year to multimillionaire coach, speaker, author, trainer. Really, really beautiful journey. And he teaches a lot of what I also teach within our community and within our programs. But he talked about his breakthrough year in business was 2015. And it was the year when he played more than any other year and actually scheduled time for play and for having fun. And that energy, that magnetism, that energy of joy and fun and bliss and enjoying the process, that's feminine. That is feminine. And something that we are taught is um, well, frankly, we're taught to give from an empty cup or give from a cup that's barely full. That it's like the next level of what we're taught is we'll give from a full cup, right? That's how you give. But the very best energy is when you are so filled up, you are so lit up, you are so poured into, you are so taken care of which requires a level of worthiness, of seeing yourself as worthy of receiving, that from that place is where you give. And that was honestly, I shared with you all today some of my own quantum leap experience and 10xing my income in 6 weeks after having been stuck for so long, for over a decade. And I can tell you, having lived it myself, it wasn't what I did. It was the internal shift. And it was me deciding that I was worthy of elevating to the level I wanted to and being done, just like Kelsey in our client spotlight talked about today, being done playing small, being done dimming my light, being done settling for less than what I actually desired, and instead saying, I am worthy to receive. And again, just like we talked about today, too, the feminine is all about receiving. It's all about how much are you willing to receive? How good are you willing to let life get? And again, there's a both and in business, right? And in life, there's got to be an energy exchange. So if we want to elevate our income and our influence, there is going to be a level where you get to give more of your gifts to the world. You get to more fully express, right? But the energy that you do it in is not the energy of exhaustion, depletion, victim energy. I'm giving too much. I don't have enough. No, no. The energy is one of equal exchange where you are giving your gifts and expressing your gifts and your talents and who you are fully into the world. And simultaneously, you are open to receive. So it's just like, a really easy analogy is the breath, right? It's just like the breath, where if you compare your relationship with money, you'll realize how crazy it is compared to what's normal for most of us. So, for most people, with your breath, when you exhale, do you wonder about whether you're worthy to inhale? Do you worry about whether more breath is coming? Do you feel like, oh, I should only take a little bit because what if somebody else needs some breath too? No, it's like you do this without even thinking about it, right? You release what no longer serves. That could be like the masculine giving. And then you inhale, you take in what's needed now. It's in and out, in and out. It's the same. It's the exact same. There's so many good analogies with the breath, even around money and circulating money. And I use the breath for a lot of different analogies because it's so powerful. But this is that balance that we want to find within our energy. And so again, feminine is all about receiving. And that can look like receiving in a lot of different ways. It can look like receiving money, receiving compliments, receiving support, receiving visibility, right? Check in with yourself right now too. Do you have a story around being visible? Is there any part of you that's like, oh, people are going to judge me, or they're going to say this about me or that about me? That is injured feminine. That is a block against receiving. And I got to work through that in my own journey. I got to work through the fear of, what if I show up and so says something, or so and so, or there's a hater who shows up and has a negative comment. And guess what? If you are focused on that, if you're attuned to that, if that's what you're focused on, you're going to get some mirrors of that. If that happens, don't make them wrong. Look inside to the part of you that's available for it. All right. And it's the same thing with our money. Like, if money isn't flowing in your life or in your business the way you want, don't make clients wrong. Don't make money wrong. Instead, it's an energy of gratitude for what's already there, right? It's bless and multiply energy. Thank you so much. I receive more, please. Thank you so much, more, please. Right. But you have to look at yourself to see what part of me doesn't feel worthy to receive what it is that I actually desire. And that's the work that we do. And that's the work that we do within our programs, in our community, and when I'm working with clients. But I want to try to give you just, again, a high level today or tonight of what this looks like, and more of like, again, a deep dive into the feminine. So I want to share some ways that people misunderstand or misuse the feminine as well, because this gets really good. So sometimes, and I don't see this as much within our community, I see that our community is more generally, not always, but generally coming from a background with a lot of masculine energy. I'm actually going to stand up because the stuffiness is too much at this point. All right, here we go. So I see for most of our community coming from a background where they've been so in the doing and so in the masculine energy that it's that piece is the piece that's hardest to shift. Like to think about stopping and being feels lazy, feels, I don't know, irresponsible, like all these. I'm just showing some of the stories that I've heard from people. So there's a different approach I take with most of our clients. However, we can, when we learn about this, or maybe you grew up in a household or with a mom or dad or parents who like really taught you this, right? But you never learned the masculine piece of things. There could be a misunderstanding or a misuse of feminine energy that can look like almost, and I'm just gonna like call it what it is. There can be an energy sometimes of entitlement of like, I'm just gonna sit back and let what I want come to me, and I'm not willing to do any work to receive it. So the work is not so much the mechanical action as it is becoming a match for what you want. So in life, in business, in sales, we do not get what we want, we get what we are. So if you have in the past made a vision board and put, I don't know, an Hermes handbag on it and a Rolls Royce and a beautiful home and a certain amount of money or this or that, and then wondered why it wasn't happening, you didn't do the work to become a match for it. So becoming a match for it means looking at your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions and saying, is this in alignment with someone who has this end outcome? And when we shift the focus from manifesting a certain result, a certain amount of money, a certain purse, handbag, shoes, car, right? To instead manifesting the version of yourself who has those things become a natural byproduct. But the key is you don't feel like you need them because you already feel so good and so whole. There's a concept that we teach in the community called selling from wholeness, which is, I think, the missing link in a lot of sales and business training, which is this idea of most of us sell and approach our business from an energy of not enoughness, right? An energy of lack, an energy of separation, an energy of, here's my goal, I'm here. If I could just push and take these mechanical masculine actions, then I'll close the gap. And then when I achieve the thing, I'll feel good enough. I'll feel abundant. I'll feel worthy. It's bass. What do people say? Bass backwards, something like that. Back asswards. I don't know. Something like that. So selling from wholeness means we have done the work. We have made the focus not so much manifesting a certain amount of money, although that's in our mind, right? We always want to be holding that energy, that vibration of the dollar amount, that intention of the dollar amount that we desire and taking action towards that, remembering that money has nothing to do with your self-worth. Okay. Now, with that being said, I do teach your level of income will never exceed your level of self-worth. But what I'm saying there is that it is the inner work, it is the worthiness piece, it is the wholeness piece. This is all about feminine energy that elevates your self-worth, and that it actually becomes an experience where you feel so good, you feel so whole, you feel so abundant that you don't feel like you need the money, the sales, the clients anymore. Now, they would be nice to have, but you don't feel like you need them. And that's actually when it comes. And I've shared with our community in my own kind of 6-week quantum leap experience. And again, there was a lot of work happening before this. So I want you to understand it was 10 years of like understanding this material and studying it. So if you're, a couple months or a couple years into your journey and you're like, I haven't quantum leaped like she did yet, it was a 10-year overnight success, is exactly what people say and what we hear. Okay. Um, but what I've shared with our community members is because I was doing this work for a solid like half of that real quantum leap experience. And it came from investing in myself at a level that it felt extremely uncomfortable. $50,000 for 6 months of private coaching. I made 100,000 the year before. I hadn't been saving it. I didn't have the money. I had to scrap together the deposit on a credit card just to figure out how I would even get in. And then I had no idea how I was going to make the rest of the payment, but I was like, I'm in, I'm committed. I know I'll find a way because I always do. And so it was in that experience, and that was really to me the starting point of the quantum leap, where I declared I am worthy of shifting this. But it was a solid 3 weeks of working through a lot of limiting beliefs, fear. What am I doing? Have I just put my family in financial ruin, jeopardy? But I did the work and I studied everything we're talking about this week. I studied universal laws relating to prosperity and abundance. I studied myself. I became aware of when I was judging myself. I became aware of when I was making myself wrong. I started to become aware of my bodily state, something I hadn't really been aware of before. Aware of when things started feeling heavy or I was resistant in my body, and I learned how to shift it. I learned how to reconnect with spirit, tap back in. And then from that place, you ever hear the phrase inspiration, right? In spirit, from that place of inspiration to come back and take action. So it was through doing that work, I had another solid 3 weeks of feeling amazing and feeling so good before any additional money came in. And then after that, the money came in. And there was action involved. There was stretchy action involved. There was uncomfortable action involved. But it was exactly what we talked about here and what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So if someone puts something on the vision board and says, yes, I want that. Yes, that's for me. And then they sit back and they don't stop to examine, well, who am I being in relation to that goal? And for someone who has that life, has that business, speaks on those stages, works with those clients, what's their self concept, right? This is why the first part of the work we do with our clients, we actually have a system we teach called the 4 quadrants of quantum sales growth. And the first part is all about self concept and identity. All right. Because your self concept is exactly what determines your results. So if someone either isn't aware that they need to focus on that, or they're not willing to focus on it and make the changes and start showing up as someone at the end result and start taking action as someone would at the end result accomplish it, instead they're like, no, I'm just going to sit back and let everything I want come to me. Again, there's an energy of pull that's powerful when you're tapped into feminine. And I have had many beautiful experiences where it's like, just because I was aligned and open, something came in. And it didn't feel in that moment like it necessarily took a lot of work on my part. But what I could also be aware of is that it was all the steps I was taking, and more importantly, who I was focusing on becoming up until that brought me into a place of being a vibrational match for what I wanted and being able to receive something like that. So there is it's a both and. It's a, you move towards your goal and it moves towards you, but the energy that you're in, which is the feminine, this is the most important piece. So it's an energy, if you think about flow state, right, which is really what feminine energy is. It's an energy of ease, it's an energy of peace, it's an energy of calm, it's an energy of non-attachment, it's an energy of openness, right? Where you know that what you want is coming and it's just a matter of time, and you're not trying to push it, you're not trying to force it. And from this place of it's already done, you're simultaneously taking action every day towards it. So that's really the blend and the balance. Another place where I see people kind of misuse or misunderstand feminine energy is a bit of like a spiritual bypass. Now, what do I mean by that? Saying, "Oh, I wanted something, but it didn't happen, so it wasn't meant to be." All right, it wasn't meant to be. Here's what I know is that whatever it is that you desire to experience, that soul aligned desire, and this is where we get to tap into and discern, is a desire that's coming through me right now, coming from a place of my own truth. And the way that I look at it is if I was on an island and no one was ever going to know, what would I want for my life? How would I want money to work for me? How would I want clients? Like pretend you're on an island by yourself, but still you have clients. Okay. So just work with me here on the analogy. How would I want clients to work with me? What sort of lifestyle would I want? From that place, when we tune into those soul aligned goals versus, I would say, a non soul aligned goal is anything we're trying to prove or accomplish out of an energy of validation or not enoughness, or someone else is saying we should want this. So when I'm working with clients and when my team is working with clients, it's always first like, what do you actually want? And getting back into your core truth. And then from that place, once we've tapped into that, we trust that. We hold that image. We hold that energy. And if something doesn't happen on the timeline you thought it was going to happen in, it doesn't mean it's not meant to be, right? It doesn't mean it's not happening for you. What it means is that the cake needs a little more time to bake. All right. No big deal. The seed needs a little more time to come up. All right. But there is tending to the garden. There is the checking the cake, right? Not from an energy of, oh, am I going to have a cake? But like, let me check on it. Let me see if I need to increase the temperature, do this, do that, right? Um, there's an element of co-creation where you get to be attached to the what, but not the how of your goal. So if something is coming through you and it's spirit inspired, which means to me it's soul aligned, like you don't care if anyone knows it has nothing to do with anyone outside of you. It's you and you for your lifestyle. And I really got this for myself a while back in my life where it was like, I didn't grow up like this. I didn't grow up with, I mean, I grew up in a very nice household and home for most people's standards. And yet there's greater calling on my life from a lot of different aspects than what I may have seen modeled as possible growing up in terms of impact, in terms of lives changed, in terms of influence, in terms of career, in terms of finance and abundance. And when I really got like for me, for the fullest expression of Elise in this lifetime, she is meant to be rich. She is meant to be impactful. She is meant to be influential, and no judgment on that, but instead an openness to just say, this is how I came in. I'm going to honor it. Right. And what does that look like for me? And really tune into from my soul what feels right, what feels in terms of home, living situation, cars, giving, um, company, time, how I spend my days, how I invest in myself. And again, it's just like in the interview with Kelsey today, and go back and watch the replay of day one if you didn't see it yet. But learning to trust yourself and learning to trust what's flowing through you, that whatever it is that's soul aligned is meant to happen, that or something better by law. So if we spiritual bypass it and say, oh, it didn't happen, so it's not meant to be. That's not how it works. This can also show up as resistance masquerading as misalignment. What do I mean by that? Sometimes I'll hear people say, oh, like I want to be in your programs, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, but the money's just not coming. So it must not be meant to be. Or there's something that feels out of alignment about the actions I need to take. So it must just be not meant to be for me right now. Okay. complete spiritual bypass. And here's the key with it. You're always aligned to something, but the key is, what are you aligned to? So the level that you're going to get to show up and operate at for your next level is very different than where you are right now. So for example, maybe you want to go from a 6-figure business to a 7-figure business, right? The version of you who leads the 7-figure business does things differently, thinks differently, feels differently from the version of you at the 6-figure business. But if you keep checking in with this version of you for what feels aligned versus this version of you, then it's the actions that are required, the being that's required, the openness to receive that's required. It's not going to feel aligned because you're still aligned with this, not this. So this is, and I'll speak to it more tomorrow, but a concept that I teach and that we teach in the community about decision making from the end and looking and acting from the end, which means going to the place where all of your goals are accomplished, going to the place where you've achieved the end result, and then saying, from this place, what action am I taking? And I remember, and it won't feel usually aligned or natural, or it won't feel comfortable for sure to the current version of you. It's going to feel massively uncomfortable. I remember in my first Quantum Leap experience, like there was a huge focus on the being and who is Elise as a 7-figure business owner versus a 6-figure business owner. So I did a lot of that work, the internal work, but then simultaneously the actions that I was taking felt extremely uncomfortable to the old version of me. And they weren't aligned to the old version of me because guess what? They were actually aligned to the new version. And that's how I got there. It was the both and. So things like singing publicly on social media when I hadn't sang in 10 years after a pretty traumatic experience in college. Things like putting out my first group masterclass when I didn't know if anyone would sign up. And I was petrified and so nervous, right? And so uncomfortable and felt like who's going to show up at my masterclass? Things like being far more visible on social, things like having really uncomfortable conversations with people around me, my partner, my family, things like doing inner child work that was really uncomfortable to the version of me back then. Like all of the things were not aligned with the old version. So they felt massively uncomfortable, right? But if we mistake alignment for, oh, it needs to feel easy. And if it doesn't feel easy or flowy or light, then that means that I'm not supposed to be doing it. That's not what we're talking about here with the feminine. Feminine is fierce. Feminine is, this is happening. Feminine is, here we go. It's kind of like that. If you think about like a mama bear, like protecting her cubs or her babies, where it's like, psh, this is happening. Like what I desire, what I want, it's here. Now, what needs to happen? What needs to shift, rearrange, change? What actions do I get to take in my life? What am I going to call on for help, with my team, with the universe, with my invisible support, etc. That's the feminine. So if we say this doesn't feel aligned, so it's not meant to be, or I'm not going to do it, but in reality, the thing that you're wanting is the thing that your soul actually wants, but you're using an excuse, right? Or it's like a thinly veiled excuse of actually you just have resistance around it. Actually, you don't feel worthy of it. Actually, you have fear about what would happen. So your brain will tell you all of these things. It's not the right timing. It doesn't feel right. The money's not here. I'm going to do it later. All resistance. All right. All resistance. And if you listen to that, if you buy into that, you will fall back to your current level. You will succumb to mediocrity. Okay. And I don't think any of you are here because you desire mediocrity in your life. You're here because you want to quantum leap. You're here because you're ready to see how full, how expansive your life and your business can get. You're here because there's something more that you're desiring in your soul, right? That you know is there for you. You can feel it, whether you're really clear on what it is or simply intuitively, you have a sense that there's something more. You know that it's there and you're ready for that. All right. So it's time to start discerning with the reasons I'm giving for why my goal isn't happening or the excuses I'm giving, like what's really going on there, right? I'm spiritual bypassing. I'm in resistance and I don't want to admit it. I'm in fear and I don't want to admit it. And we can make things sound really good. We can give all the reasons in the world and rationalize. But again, if you listen to that, you will stay exactly where you are. And you'll be here a year from now saying, man, I wonder what had happened if I had actually said yes and gone for it a year ago. I wonder how different my life would be, right? So one final piece on the feminine. The feminine is all about intuition. And I want to teach you for a moment how to use intuition as well as how to discern intuition versus fear. So, something that I teach my clients is we build out, and I do this especially when I'm working with private clients or my high level mastermind clients, where it's like things are really custom to them in terms of what's taught. So, we will build out a daily SOP, daily success habits, right? There's a lot of different things you can call it based on the end. So let's say someone wants to go to 7 figures, multi-7, whatever in their business. We say for the version of you, for the CEO of you who is at that level, what are the core actions they're taking every single day around their business? So we build those out, and then the actions that you're taking are actually aligned with the end result versus where you are now. So what I teach them is these are the things you want to do on a regular basis, on a daily business to keep the business moving forward, to keep it growing. And it's usually going to be sales, revenue generating activities, right? But those are going to look different depending on what level you're going to. Now, simultaneously, so like we know every day there's a certain set of things that you're going to do consistently to get you to keep the energy moving around your goal. I think that's how I would put it. And so I have my own that I do every day. But the key with this is I also pay attention to intuitive hits. So it doesn't happen every day, but it happens a lot. When I go into my visualization and my meditation and I go to the end and I am open to the end result and I'm connected with the energy, there will almost always be an intuitive download. Reach out to this person, do this type of social media post, go here later today, do this, do that. What I know is when I am open, when I am in a state of openness, receptivity, gratitude, non-attachment, and I'm just existing with my goal. Whatever comes through from that elevated emotional state, that is something I want to follow. So I will prioritize those intuitive hits and I will do those first as often as possible. Sometimes it's something that needs done later in the day, and I trust the timing of that. But I will prioritize those intuitive hits and I do those first before, excuse me, before my daily actions, right? Before my daily SOP or success habits. So that's the one piece. Another thing with intuition is very quiet. It's very quiet. So sometimes we can get fear mixed up with intuition. And again, we can package the fear really well and we can make it sound good. You know, oh, I really want to be, I hear this, oh, Lisa, I really want to be in your programs. And right now it's just not the right time. Here's what's going on. That's what's going on. Right. And sometimes there's life stuff. Like I really do get that. A lot of times it is it's thinly disguised fear, right? Of what would happen if I actually went for this? Ooh, I don't want to spend the money. That feels uncomfortable, right? Ooh, this, ooh, that fear creeping in. Um, Intuition is very quiet. It's calm. It's still. Fear can be loud. Fear is that analytical brain, the monkey mind kicking off, analyzing the situation, telling you all the reasons why it's not a good idea, why you can't do it. Intuition also gets there first. So you have a path that you could go down, or you have a choice to make. The way that I look at it is take money and time out of it. What do you do? What's your choice? That's your truth. That's the right decision for you. Remembering that money comes after you make a committed decision. You don't need money to make a committed decision. The money comes after. All right. Same with time. You always have more than enough time for what's actually needed, right? If you decide that you're going to live in abundance, that means not just abundance of money, but abundance of time. And I made that decision in my life. And it's amazing how many pockets of time open up now for the things that really matter to me. Like even tonight, recording this, when I offered to everyone today, like I'm going to record a bonus training, I didn't know when I was going to do it. I'm with the kids the rest of the afternoon, but I made the commitment. It came through. And the download was after dinner while my husband and the kids are out walking the dog. This is when you're going to record it. But that wouldn't have come through if I hadn't made the decision and if I wasn't available to live in time overflow and abundance as well, which I am. So there's a lot of our own rules without getting too far down a rabbit hole here. There's a lot of our own rules that we get to make with money and with time and with business and with life and with how it works for us. But fear is loud. Fear is anything that tells you that you're not going to be able to do what you want to do, or that you can't, or that you shouldn't. If you want to tune into what is intuition, what is spirit, what is your higher self, right? It's never going to say, oh no, you can't have that. You can't do that. That's too much. No, that's the ego mind. Spirit is all about expansion and fuller expression. So anything that you desire that's about your expansion, your fuller expression, right? That is in alignment with spirit. And so intuitively, it will feel often like a yes. Well, it will always feel like a yes, but sometimes we just haven't honed our instrument enough. We haven't practiced it enough. And it just takes practice. But intuitively, you will know, again, if I took money or I took time out of it, what would my choice be? See what shows up. And then that's your truth. And that is intuition. Now, the crazy thing with intuition is it's not logical. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not going to make sense based on your present circumstances. It's not going to stack up based on your present circumstances. When I said yes to a $50,000 coaching investment when I made six figures the whole year before, it didn't make sense. I didn't have the money, but my intuition was yes. It told me you need to do this to get so out of your comfort zone that you're finally willing to show up differently for yourself. You're finally willing to believe something different for yourself. You're finally willing to drop these old limiting paradigms. And that was intuition. And again, I didn't see the full how when I said yes, but the law of sufficiency and abundance means that you always have more than enough for what is needed. All right. And you will always have more than enough, often for just the next step. So what's the next step in this? I'm, making a deposit, clicking submit on the TEDx video, application, whatever the next step is. You can take that step. And then from there, the next step is revealed. Again, this is actually feminine energy, which is about the journey versus the destination. So when we learn to tune in and intuitively, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? And enjoying the process, that is the feminine. That is all the feminine. So again, hopefully big learning there with intuition. Take money out of it, take time out of it, take any other ancillary factors out of it. If that thing was not there for you as an excuse, which is what we use them as excuses. If that thing was not there for you as an excuse, what would your choice be? That is your truth. That is your truth, my friend. So, in closing here with the teaching, how do we know when it's time to lean into masculine versus feminine? Well, I would say it's pretty simple. Are you doing all the right tactical things? You're checking the box, you're working hard, but money isn't flowing the way you want. Clients aren't flowing the way you want. Opportunities aren't flowing the way you want. That is your invitation to lean into feminine. That is feminine. Time to tap into some powerful feminine energy. The being, the receiving, the peace, the calm, the love, the vibrational state, right? Focusing on being a match for what you want. Now, if you are being it and you're feeling the vibe, but you're not moving towards your goal, you're not taking solid action every day, you're not seeing the results, that is, it can be a number of different things, but one of them is it's an invitation to lean into masculine energy to support you in taking action towards those goals. It can also look like resistance that you're not aware of. It can look like fear. It can look like a lot of different things. And that's part of what we unpack, with our clients. But that would be an indication that it's time to lean more into masculine. So my approach and what I want to encourage you to do here is connect with the being first, connect with the emotional state first, connect with the feeling tone first, the feeling state first. And then from that place, take action, leading with intuition, which won't feel logical, linear. It'll feel sometimes scary, uncomfortable again to the old version of you. And then from that place, we take the action. We take aligned action. We'll talk more about tomorrow what aligned action is versus misaligned or disconnected action. And then when something comes up, right? We get an email we don't like. Someone says no when we thought they were going to say yes. We have a fight with our partner. Stop trying to push through it. Go back, get back into the feeling state. And then again, from that place, then you take action. Then you take action. So I want to close this bonus training with just a little guided visualization, meditation for you to help you really tune into what you want, what your soul wants, what you desire at a deep and profound level. So closing your eyes and coming into this moment, taking some deep grounding breaths to bring your presence right here, right now, in through the nose, out through your mouth, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And I want to invite you to that place of knowingness within you, of those soul aligned goals. And when I used that phrase earlier, you may or may not have had something show up specifically for you. But right now in this moment, I want to invite you to just go to the place where no one is going to know, right? No one's going to see about it or hear about it on social media. Family's not going to know. Friends aren't going to know. Clients aren't going to know. For you, what is your truth? What is your truth in terms of how money works for you? What feels like more than enough for you? What is your truth in terms of lifestyle? In terms of business? In terms of relationships and health? Again, we're going to expand this a little bit beyond just the scope of business today. But you're on an island. No one is watching. No one is looking. No one's ever going to know. What do you want? What feels most like you? And now in gratitude, we're going to connect with the fact that because that showed up through you, that is meant for you. And that in fact, it's already done. And this is also part of the feminine, where we realize that everything is created twice. First in the non-physical, then in the physical. And our job is to pull what we want towards us, right? That feminine pulling energy, which does involve some action, but it's not push, force, or hustle. It's pull, right? So trusting that because that came through you, because that showed up through you now, that is God, source, universe, love, spirit, use your language, wanting to express itself through you. So we want to honor that. And now remembering that you don't need to know the how. In fact, the how is none of your business. So we're now just going to go in our mind to the place where this is all done. We're going to skip straight to that place. And I want you to notice, how is your life now? How are you living? Who are you surrounded by? How are you loving? How are you feeling? How are you feeling about you? How are you celebrating? Really, really going there and seeing your life, your business, your bank account, your friendships, your clients, your family, your health, your relationships, seeing it all from that end state. And now calling in gratitude that is already done. It's already done. Now all you have to do is be open to it. Be worthy to receive. Be worthy to receive. And trust and know that it is yours. And that is divine inspiration flowing through you, which is wanting to manifest not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of a lot of others along the way. And it's like Steve Jobs said, you'll only connect the dots looking backwards. So as you open up to that and say yes to that and take the next right step towards that, which is all we're called to do, what's the next right step? And again, right step to me means alignment with the end result. What's the next step I would take from the end? Trusting that as you do that, what you want is moving towards you while you simultaneously move towards it. So taking in another deep breath of gratitude and appreciation. And a big exhale out. And when you're ready, you can come back into this moment. All right, my friend, those are all the other things I wanted to cover with you today. So I trust that this served you. I'm excited to see you tomorrow. It's going to be an incredible day. It's going to be really, really, really powerful. So I want to see you there live. I'm excited to see you there to pour into you. Again, we're going to be doing a drawing winner tomorrow when we kick off. So it's going to be beautiful. And I'm glad that you're here. If you missed the replay of day one. If you didn't join for day one live, go watch the replay before tomorrow. This will make more sense. And then you will feel far more prepared going into tomorrow as well. So, and if you show up tomorrow either way, like you want to show up tomorrow, but it all builds off of each other. So it's really, really powerful work. All right, my friend. Thank you for taking the time to watch this bonus video. I'll see you tomorrow.